Targum Pseudo Jonathan. Place, I pray, your hand on the cut of my circumcision. JPS Torah Commentary. Gestures accompanying oath-taking are universal in the ancient world. Most frequently, they involve the raising of a hand and or the holding of a ritual object. In later times, a Torah scroll, phylacteries, or a Bible might be held for such a purpose. The unusual nature of the present act leaves any explanation uncertain. Interpreters are unanimous that the thigh represents the genital organ. This may be a reference to circumcision. Holding the circumcised membrum, called the sign of the covenant, may invoke the presence and the power of God as the guarantor of the oath. But such symbolism would be valid only if it were recognized by both sides. The gesture would be meaningless to an uncircumcised servant. If he were circumcised, and this presumably was the case here, it is unclear why he did not have to touch his own membrum. Another explanation regards the thigh as the seat of the procreative powers. The gesture would then involve posterity and the implementation of the instructions. Verse 41 shows that a curse was invoked as part of the oath in the event of non-compliance. So the placing of the hand on the membrum may have been a gesture acknowledging that Abraham's posterity would avenge the violation. The notion that the curse has to do with the sterility or loss of offspring is open to the same objection as was leveled against the first explanation. The World Biblical Commentary. The sacredness of the duty is underlined by the oath he is invited to swear. Note the please, na, that precedes the imperative swear. It is no ordinary request that Abraham is making, so he couches it with some delicacy. By putting his hand under Abraham's thigh, the servant was touching his genitals and thus giving an oath a special solemnity. In the ancient Orient, solemn oaths could be taken holding some sacred objects in one's hand, as it is still customary to take an oath on the Bible before giving evidence in court. Since the Old Testament particularly associates God with life, and Abraham had been circumcised as a mark of the covenant, placing his hand under Abraham's thigh made an intimate association with the fundamental religious ideas. An oath by the seed of procreation is particularly apt in this instance when it concerns the finding of a wife for Isaac. Malul, while pointing to the appropriateness of an oath by the genitals to ensure perpetuity of the family, more problematically suggests that the ancestral spirits were also being invoked to guarantee the oath is carried out. The New International Commentary on the Old Testament. Abraham instructs his servant, "Put your hand under my thigh," a prelude to the servant's act of swearing. Thigh is undoubtedly a euphemism for genitalia, in the light of passages such as Genesis 46:26 and Exodus 1:5, where a man's children are said to come from his thigh. Holding Abraham's membrum in his hand, the servant promises to carry out Abraham's wishes. The significance of this procedure is uncertain. It is unlikely that this act should be read as a self-imprecation by the servant, calling down sterility on himself or extirpation for his children. R.D. Freeman has suggested that taking the membrum, now circumcised as a covenant sign, into the hand is a way of invoking the presence of God at this moment between the master and the servant. Or it may simply be a way in which the servant reassures Abraham that he will honestly and truthfully carry out his master's wish. One may discover some clue as to the significance of this act by comparing the only two episodes in the Old Testament that connect oath-taking with placing the hand under another's thigh. Genesis 24:2 and 47:9. In both cases, the one who asks another to place his hand under his thigh is elderly. Abraham is old, along in years, and Jacob Israel is on his deathbed. Therefore, neither Abraham nor Jacob can guarantee that their wishes will be faithfully carried out. The other individual, the one who places his hand on the thigh, is well known to the person requesting the oath. In both cases, the real concern of Abraham and Jacob is with family matters. Abraham desires the right woman for his son, and Jacob wishes to be buried with his ancestors. Finally, both stories involve a not here but there geography. In touching the genitalia of Abraham and Jacob, the servant and Joseph are placing themselves under oath faithfully to expedite the last wishes of two elderly patriarchs on family matters. Any attempt to avoid these wishes will arouse the wrath of the ancestral spirits.
Welcome back, everyone, to Covenants and Kingdoms. I am your co-host, Brad, along with
Nathan. Hey, how are you? Boker Tov. Sabah al-Khair.
Sabah al-Khair. And that means good morning. And we're happy to be back with you today. And as always, we are brought to you by Baba Java Coffee. We are located here in Birmingham, Alabama, roasting some outstanding coffees from all around the world. Also with 3 coffee shops in the area. So come check us out. And if you go to our website, babajavacoffee.com, and put in the code Covenants, you will get 10% off your order. So, Nathan, that was
a little different of an introduction today.
So you read some commentaries about the passage that we're going to read, that you're going to hear.
About one little specific part of the passage, just at the very first, about Abraham and his servant taking an oath.
Yeah.
And so we'll when we get into it, let's talk about that just briefly. We'll go through the narrative, talk about some things with the story of Isaac and Rebekah, and then we're going to skip chapter 25. Chapter 25 is very significant. It talks about the birth of Jacob and Esau. That's very significant. We'll go back and talk about that. But then the writer skips ahead, goes back in time in chapter 26 to talk about Isaac's life. So we'll go back. We'll fast forward to chapter 26, and then we'll go back to chapter 25 and talk about not the whole chapter, but part of it a little bit later.
Awesome.
Genesis chapter 24. Now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his servant, the oldest in his household, who had charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh, that I may make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and God of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell, but will go to my country and to my kindred and take a wife for my son Isaac." The servant said to him, "Perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I then take your son back to the land from which you came?" Abraham said to him, "See to it that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and who spoke to me and swore to me, 'To your offspring I will give this land.' He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from this oath of mine, only you must not take my son back there." So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, "O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman to whom I shall say, 'Please let down your jar that I may drink,' and who shall say, 'Drink, and I will water your camels,' let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master." Before he had finished speaking, behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her water jar on her shoulder. The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please give me a little water to drink from your jar." She said, "Drink, my lord," and she quickly let down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw water for your camels also until they have finished drinking." So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw water, and she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing a half shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels, and said, "Please tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" She said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor." She added, "We have plenty of both straw and fodder and room to spend the night." The man bowed his head and worshipped the Lord and said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and his faithfulness toward my master. As for me, the Lord has led me in the way to the house of my master's kinsman." Then the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out toward the man to the spring. As soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms and heard the words of Rebekah his sister, "Thus the man spoke to me," he went to the man. And behold, he was standing by the camels at the spring. He said, "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house and a place for the camels." So the man came to the house and unharnessed the camels, and gave straw and fodder to the camels, and there was water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. Then food was set before him to eat, but he said, "I will not eat until I have said what I have to say." He said, "Speak on." So he said, "I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, and he has become great. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male servants and female servants, camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him he has given all that he has. My master made me swear, saying, 'You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell. But you shall go to my father's house and to my clan, and take a wife for my son.' I said to my master, 'Perhaps the woman will not follow me.' But he said to me, 'The Lord, before whom I have walked, will send his angel with you and prosper your way. You shall take a wife for my son from my clan and from my father's house. Then you will be free from my oath when you come to my clan. And if they will not give her to you, you will be free from my oath.' I came today to the spring and said, 'O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, if now you are prospering the way that I go, behold, I am standing by the spring of water. Let the virgin who comes out to draw water, to whom I shall say, "Please give me a little water from your jar to drink," and who will say to me, "Drink, and I will draw for your camels also," let her be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son." Before I had finished speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came out with her water jar on her shoulder, and she went down to the spring and drew water. I said to her, "Please let me drink." She quickly let down her jar from her shoulder and said, "Drink, and I will give your camels drink also." So I drank, and she gave the camels drink also. Then I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" She said, "The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him." So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her arms. Then I bowed my head and worshipped the Lord and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me by the right way to take the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now then, if you are going to show steadfast love and faithfulness to my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left." Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, "The thing has come from the Lord. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken." When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the earth before the Lord. And the servant brought out jewelry of silver and of gold and garments, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave to her brother and to her mother costly ornaments. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they arose in the morning, he said, "Send me away to my master." Her brother and her mother said, "Let the young woman remain with us a while, at least 10 days. After that she may go." But he said to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master." They said, "Let us call the young woman and ask her." And they called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" She said, "I will go." So they sent away Rebekah their sister and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "Our sister, may you become thousands of 10,000s, and may your offspring possess the gate of those who hate him." Then Rebekah and her young women arose and rode on the camels and followed the man. Thus the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Now Isaac had returned from Beer-lahai-roi and was dwelling in the Negeb. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field toward evening, and he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there were camels coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel and said to the servant, "Who is that man walking in the field to meet us?" The servant said, "It is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself, and the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah his mother, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Genesis 26, 1 through 5. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar, to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and your offspring I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father. I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws."
All right, so let's read the first few verses here, verse 1 through 9, one more time. We just read it, but let's kind of go into it. So now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. Remember, that was part of the covenant, is the blessing. Okay, yeah. Not only he would be blessed, but all nations of the earth will be blessed through you. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's part of the covenant. One of the three things. And Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his household, who had charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh, that I may make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell." Okay. Two things. We're going to talk about who he sent, which servant he sent, and why he sent this servant. Okay. So he chose, who did he choose?
The oldest of his household.
The oldest of the household, what was his position?
I mean, basically his vice president. If his house was a company, it's his vice president.
It's his right hand man. Yeah. It's like the guy who takes care of everything.
Yeah.
Right. So he's his most trusted servant. Mm-hmm. Okay. So for this specific task, he doesn't just choose some minimum wage worker.
Right.
He doesn't go down and find some day laborer.
Yeah.
Right. He chooses his most important person, the person he trusts the most. Right.
Right.
Because this is a very important task. Why is this a very important? Again, contrast this with the Lord commanding the sacrifice of Isaac. Okay. This is talking about the same guy. All right. The child of the promise, Isaac. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that's why contrasting this with the sacrifice is it just shows the significance of the sacrifice and the significance of the act that was going to take place at the sacrifice. Just a monumental act, okay? Because Isaac and the propagation of the generations of Isaac is the most important task to Abraham, okay? So he chooses his most important service for this most important act that he's going to do, finding a wife for Isaac. And who does he want to choose the wife from?
Well, someone from his kinfolk.
Somebody from his kinfolk, right? and it happens that we're going to find out later in the narrative, as we just read, that Rebekah is Isaac's first cousin, right?
Yeah.
So today we wouldn't choose that, but
it still happens in the
tribal
Middle East.
Peoples. It's very, very common in tribal peoples, and I mean even through modern times with people with European leaders, they did things like that. So it's not unheard of today in our modern world. We look down on things like that, obviously, but in the ancient world and throughout history, that's not necessarily something that's looked down upon.
Right.
Okay. So that's who he chooses. All right. But it's somebody from his family. And again, why does he choose somebody from his own family? I mean, that's semi-rhetorical, but we're going to answer it. I wasn't necessarily asking you, but it's semi-rhetorical. Because they hold the same values, they speak the same language, they have the same customs and things like that, as opposed to the people of the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell, like he says, right? And so he makes this servant swear an oath, okay, to find this wife. Okay, let's keep reading. But we'll go to my country and to my kindred and take a wife for my son Isaac. Then the servant said to him, perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me to this land. May I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham said to him, see to it that you do not take my son back there. Why did he not want him to take him back there?
Well, they're probably still pagan worshipers.
They're pagan worshipers. It's possible that he could fall back into the old pagan practices. Again, it's really hard to do the right thing when everybody around you is doing the wrong thing, right? It's really hard.
Yep.
Okay? So it's really hard to worship to have any kind of cultic worship of Yahweh when everyone around you is worshiping other people. All right?
Correct.
So it's really hard. So he doesn't want them to fall back into those old ways. See to it, did you not take my son back there? The Lord, Yahweh, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and who spoke to me and swore to me, to your offspring I will give this land, he will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And, okay, so it says Malak, right? Mm-hmm. So that Malak, the angel of the Lord, Malak Yahweh, remember, when the angel goes before the people, who do we say that is? That's the physical manifestation of Yahweh. It's the second Yahweh. It's that second Yahweh figure, the same angel that went before the Israelites during the Exodus that we've talked about so many times, and we're going to keep talking about it over and over and over and over again. The one that said they delivered the people from Exodus from Egypt. The one that said the one who said he destroyed the enemies. The angel of the Lord, the physical manifestation of Yahweh. It's God, his actual presence, because his name is in him. Remember, we talked about name theology. His name is in him. That angel's going before. Okay? He sent his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, you'll be free from this oath of mine, and you must not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Okay? That's weird.
Yep.
Why is he putting his hand under his thigh?
Well, you just read from the commentaries.
So the commentaries, we just read that, obviously. Spoiler alert. The commentaries think that's not a thigh.
Yeah.
Okay. The actual word. So there's a few different Hebrew words that can mean thigh. All right. At least two, maybe three. So in this case, it's yarak. Okay. Or yarach. It's a cuff. Okay. So it literally says, put your hand under my yarach. That's what it says. All right. Mm-hmm. And we've got the Hebrew here, and in verse 2, the end of verse 2, The very last word is yerchi, my thigh. Okay? Yerchi, my thigh. What does that mean? Well, it means not thigh, but it means it's a euphemism for genitalia. Okay? So it means literally put your hand upon, just like in the Targum, the Pseudo Jonathan, he said, put your hand on the sign of my circumcision. That's what it means. Wow. Okay? So most of the commentators that I read think that he's actually swearing by Abraham's genitals. Okay? Which is a little weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to us in modern days, we can't even think about stuff like that. You know, we would never swear on anybody else's genitals.
No.
That's not a modern thing that we would do. Okay? That would be considered sexual assault, and we wouldn't do that. All right? But that term, translated thigh, it can either mean the upper thigh, like the upper leg, like what we would think a thigh would be, right? Or it can mean the side of the hip, okay? Or it could mean genitals. Or it can mean side or something like that. We've seen that in different places, all right? But most of the time, based on context, well, not most of the time, but based on context, you have to decide what it kind of means. And in this context, it makes sense that it means make an oath by his genitals, all right? Have we ever seen another euphemism for a word used that means genitals, another word that's a euphemism for genitals that we've seen in the Bible before? Yeah, and the circumcision, remember when we talked about circumcision, we talked about how Moses, that famous Exodus 4 story where Moses almost gets killed on his way back, and they have to circumcise his son, and his wife puts the foreskin on Moses's feet.
Oh,
regel, remember?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean regel. What it means is he is being circumcised by proxy so he doesn't get killed. We don't know what that means and how that, there's no other commentary about it. That's it, this one-off story. So we don't really know a whole lot about it, but we know that regel is a euphemism for genitals also, okay? So it's not unusual for other things to use nice words to describe genitals.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. That's what they're doing here, all right? It's a euphemism, okay? So yarak, right? That's all we're going to say about that. So why would he swear by Abraham's genitals? Why would he swear by his thigh? Okay? It doesn't again, it does mean a euphemism for genitals.
Yeah.
It does. That's what it means.
Why would he do that?
Okay, but why would he do that? Well, there's several different options. One option is, we just talked about that in some of those commentaries. Some of the commentators say it could mean that just because it's his sign of the circumcision is there, it's a kind of a holy place, okay? Because that's the place of the oath between him and God. All right? So he's swearing by this covenant.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So what is this right here?
It's a Bible.
I'm holding a Bible, okay, for people listening and not watching. I'm holding a Bible, all right? It's a purple Bible, which is interesting. But it's a Bible, all right? So this is our producer Matt's Bible.
Yeah.
All right. And so Matt, he said something weird to me that I want to talk about here. All right. He said, "Well, it's only whatever this particular translation.
Yeah.
It's not the translation that I normally use." So, and I thought that was a little strange. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a minute, and then we'll get to my point. Okay. Why would somebody not want to give me one particular translation? Okay. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because they're all translations. Okay. Somebody might translate one thing different than another thing. I prefer certain translations because of the way they do it, but that doesn't mean that's the right way. Well, I mean, it might be, but in general, they're all translations. They're all in English from a language that's different. We just talked about that this word means something different. We translate it thigh in every English translation, but it means genitals, but we didn't put genitals in. We know that's what it means, but we didn't put that in there. All right? So So there are some translations that are bad.
Yes.
The translation Matt gave me is not bad because they try their best to represent the word in English, right?
Yeah.
So just because, I am hypercritical about a lot of things. Okay.
Never.
And people that know me know that that's true. And I know that I push certain translations because I use the same ones over and over again because I think they're better for me, for my purpose. But if you use a good translation where the people are faithfully trying to recreate the words in English to make it what the original languages are trying to say, it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter necessarily which translation. So if you're a New King James, if you're a King James only, or if you're a ESV or NASB or NIV, I wouldn't put that in the same category. But
the new NIV anyway. The old NIV was fine.
Yeah. So I mean, there's lots of different translations which are good, where people in different ways are trying to say the same thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, soapbox off. Stepping down. Okay, this is a Bible.
Yeah.
It's a book made of paper. Well, this one's made of leather on the outside.
Yeah.
But inside it's just paper, and with words on
and
it.
Ink.
All right.
Yeah.
Just like any other book in the world. Right?
Yeah.
What's significant and important about a book with words in it?
But nothing.
It's just a book with words.
Yeah.
Like any other, like I've got a bookshelf full of books with words. So there are books with words.
Yeah.
Right? So why, we don't do this anymore, but why do we used to place our hand on the Bible? In some instances, people do this, but in the courts, we don't do this anymore. Put your hand on the Bible. They might in Alabama still.
I'm sure they would here.
But in some states they don't do that. Anyway, put your hand on the Bible and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Why do we do that? Because it's just a book with words.
Yeah.
Why do we do that?
Well, a couple of reasons. I mean, there are people still today that would say that physical thing is holy that you're touching. But also it's similar to the story. It's a physical reminder of the God of the universe and the truths that he speaks to us.
So this book, Christian Bible, is divided into two sections.
Yeah.
What are the two sections called?
Old and New Testament.
Old New Testament. And Testament means?
Covenant.
So this is the covenant between God and man. Mm-hmm. It's the story of the covenant between God and man, right? And so just like what you just said, just like we put our hand on the Bible to testify in court, to uphold the truth based on putting our hand on this Bible, that's exactly what the servant's doing, just like what you just said. This is a covenant. The circumcision is a covenant between God and Abraham. And so him placing his hand on the sign of that on that sign of that covenant is basically, it's not a sexual thing at all. Okay? It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's a thing, it's a sign saying, I'm going to testify by this covenant that God, between you and God, so help me God, that I'm going to fulfill this task that you've given me. I take this oath. Okay? The second thing is there could be certain curses invoked in that. And the curses could be sterility to the servant if he doesn't fulfill it in that way. We don't know. But anyway, that's what the commentator said. So, okay.
Interesting.
Let's move on with our story here. So then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and he departed, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master. He arose and went to Mesopotamia, right? Again, the significance of Mesopotamia cannot be understated. That's where Abraham came from. That's where the servant's going back to get Rebekah eventually, right? And we'll keep talking about this theme of Mesopotamia and Babylon. And remember, the two great powers eventually the kingdoms of Israel and Judah will be exiled to will be Mesopotamia, Assyria,
and
Babylon, which are in Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
They're Mesopotamian kingdoms. Okay, significance of that. As we continue with our story, we're going to just talk about that over and over and over and over again, okay? To Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time when women go out to draw water, okay? Timing of the Lord. The timing of the Lord.
Yep.
And he said, and again, the servant. This servant is a servant of Abraham. He came from Mesopotamia too, probably. We don't know. It doesn't say exactly. But I bet a lot of these servants came from Mesopotamia with Abraham, right?
Yeah.
Or he took Canaanite servants on the way. We don't know. We don't know where he came from. but he would have been pagan background, right? Just like
Definitely.
Abram was.
Definitely.
So, but now who is he praying to? Oh, Yahweh, God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing at this spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming down to draw water. Let the young woman to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels, let her be the one whom you have appointed to your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master. Okay, so he's asking the Lord for a very specific thing. All right, I mean, this is not just, he's not just praying generally, oh Lord, bless me, period, right? He's not saying, oh Lord, let me have success. He's praying for a specific thing, okay? So sometimes we tend to, in our lives, with the Lord, generalize things with him, which is fine because we want to be generally blessed. We want, but he wants us to pray for specific things too, right? I mean, I'm definitely not a prosperity gospel, health and wealth guy. You know, I think that's false gospel.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's how we're supposed to live our lives in faith. But the Lord sometimes wants us to pray for specific things. I think all the time wants us to pray for specific things. It's real important. Jesus prayed for specific things. And the servant, even this servant is praying this very specific prayer to ask the Lord to give him exactly what will happen so that it's not ambiguous, so that he knows exactly what the will of the Lord is. Okay?
Yeah.
Verse 15, behold, he had finished speaking to the Lord. And then what happened? Right afterwards, behold, Rebekah, Rivkah, who was born to Bethuel, what does that say? Bethuel. Yeah, it's house of God.
Yeah.
The son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor. Okay, so what city did he go to?
Nahor.
And who's the patriarch of this family?
Nahor.
Okay, and who is he? Who is Nahor? Abraham's brother.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Right.
So it's Isaac's uncle, right? Came out with her water jar on her shoulder. So Rivkah is Isaac's first cousin, right? The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please give me a little water to drink from your jar. Exactly what he said he was going to say, all right? He asked the Lord, whoever I say this to, please. All right, and we'll see what happens. She said, drink, my Lord. There you go. And she quickly let her down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. Again, this happens right after he finishes praying this prayer.
Yeah.
Okay? So, all right. Let's keep on going, and then we'll talk about a couple points here. Drink, my Lord. And she quickly let her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw water, and she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. So this weird, he's just kind of looking at her. Right. Don't you think that's a little awkward?
It's like staring at her,
Rebekah's like doing this work, and he's just like staring her down. No,
Probably would have been weird.
I don't think it was quite like that, but maybe. Anyway, so what are some things about prayer that we need to learn? All right, think about the timing here. He prays this very, very specific prayer. What did he say? He said, let the young woman to whom I shall say, please let down your jar that I may drink, and who shall say, drink, and I will water your camels also. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And then as soon as he finished praying,
she walks up.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Did she walk up because he prayed this prayer, or was she going to walk up anyway?
Oh, she was going to walk up anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that the Lord was doing didn't have anything to do with his prayer.
No.
All right?
Of course not.
That's what we want to understand.
Yeah.
The prayer is him being faithful to show the relationship and the faith that he has in the Lord, right? Yeah. That doesn't have anything to do with whether things are going to be successful or not. It has nothing to do with it. Because she's already coming up. I mean, she's probably walked miles from her, or a little while from her house to this well. And then, so it's not like she was transported like
as soon as he prayed.
Philip in the spirit just appears somewhere else. As soon as he prays, she just appears there. No, that's not how it happened. She was walking from her house with her water jar, right? So this is something that was already planned by the Lord. The Lord knew what the plan was going to be. He doesn't need the dude's prayers for it to be successful, but the prayers show our heart and our faith.
Amen.
Okay.
Well said.
When the camels had finished drinking, verse 22, the man took a gold ring after he's staring her down, weighing a half shekel, and 2 bracelets for arms, weighing 10 gold shekels, and said, "Please tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" And he didn't know who she was, right?
No clue.
She said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor," right? She added, "We have plenty of both straw and fodder and room to spend the night." The man bowed his head and worshipped the Lord and said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and his faithfulness towards my master. As for me, the Lord had led me in the way of the house to my master's kinsman." Then the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things. Okay? Rebekah had a brother whose name was
Laban.
We might hear about Laban later.
Maybe.
Laban ran out towards the man to the spring. As soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms and heard the words of Rivkah, his sister, Rebekah, "Thus the man spoke to me." He went to the man, and behold, he was standing by the camels in the spring, and he said, "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside?" Okay, so he says, "Blessed of Yahweh." So again, these people are pagans.
But Yahweh is probably one of their gods.
He's one of their gods.
Yeah.
All right? He's one of the gods that they see as a god. And he probably knows that Abram followed Yahweh.
Yeah.
Abram, when Abram was there, followed Yahweh, his uncle.
Because surely Abram told them, "Hey, the God of the universe came and spoke to me."
Yeah. I mean, you would think so.
Yeah.
You would think so. So anyway, blessed the Lord, why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man came to the house and unharnessed the camels and gave straw and fodder to the camels, and there was water to wash his feet and the feet of the man who were with him. Then the food was set before him to eat, but he said, "I will not eat until I have said what I have to say." He said, "Speak on, brother."
Speak on.
Speak on. So again, this is a different culture than us. All right, it shows the culture of hospitality. We talked about when the 3 men visited Abraham. We talked about the importance of hospitality and this ethic, this Judeo-Christian ethic of hospitality. Okay, that we've lost in our society. We have to be generous and hospitable to each other. We got to learn to get that back. We have to learn to be that as followers of Jesus, as faithful believers in the Lord and followers of the Lord. We have to get this value of hospitality, honoring other people back in our lives. We have to do this, and that's what they were doing here. Even they're pagans. These are pagans.
Yeah.
And they're showing hospitality to this. I mean, he's a servant. He's not, he's not Abraham. He is an ambassador of Abraham. So it's kind of like Abraham, but it's not Abraham. But they're still showing great hospitality to him, taking care of the camels and taking care of everything. So he said, "I am Abraham's servant. The Lord, Yahweh, has greatly blessed my master, and he has become great. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male servants and female servants, camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him he has given all that he has. My master made me swear, saying, 'You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I dwell, but you shall go to my father's house and to my clan and take a wife for my son.' I said to my master, 'Perhaps the woman will not follow me.' But he said to me, 'The Lord before whom I have walked will send his angel with you and prosper your way.'" So what was going on already? Again, the angel was taking care of everything.
Yeah.
The Lord, his plan was already working. All right?
Yep.
This stuff is happening with the Lord. It's the Lord's will. It's happening. Okay? The servant prayed for these things, but the prayer didn't make it happen. Okay? It's not a magic formula. It's the Lord working. The prayer shows the faith of the servant.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, that's it. I said to my master, "Perhaps a woman will not follow me," but he said, "The Lord before whom I have walked will send the angel before you to prosper your way. You shall take a wife for my son from my clan and from my father's house. Then you will be free from my oath when you come to my clan. And if they will not give her to you, you will be free from my oath. I came today to the spring and said, O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, if you are now prospering the way that I shall go, behold, I am standing in the spring of water. And he talks about his prayer, right? Mm-hmm. And then he says that Rebekah answers that prayer right away, okay? Before I'd finished speaking my heart, Rebekah came out with a water jar. We'll skip down to verse 48. Then I bowed my head and worshiped the Lord and blessed the Lord, the God of my... It doesn't say that in the before. I bowed my head and worshiped the Lord and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me by the right way to take the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now then, if you're going to show steadfast love and faithfulness to my master, tell me. And if not, tell me that I may turn to the right or to the left. All right? This dude is straight up.
Oh, yeah. He's like, if she's not the one, let me know so I can move along.
I'll move along.
Yeah.
I'll go this way or that way. But you got to tell me because I ain't wasting my time. I love this guy.
Yeah, he sounds like you.
He does. He's straight up. He's like, just tell me. Is it going to work or not? Okay. I love it. I love this guy. Anyway. And Lavan and Bethuel answered and said, the thing that has come from the Lord, we cannot speak to you both good or bad. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. When Abraham's servant heard the words, he bowed himself to the earth before the Lord. And the servant brought out jewelry of silver and gold, garments, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave to her brother and to her mother costly ornaments. Okay, so why is he giving all this stuff to Rebekah and to her family?
Well, it's to show respect.
It's to show respect.
Yeah.
But it's like the bride price, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So he's,
the dowry.
The dowry.
Yeah.
All right. So he's honoring them, yes, but he's also having to pay for her.
Yeah.
All right. So nothing's for free, right? Ten stuffle. When they arose in the morning, and he and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they arose in the morning, he said, send me away to my master. Her brother and her mother said, let the young woman remain with us for a while. At least, I love this guy. Listen to this. At least 10 days after that, she may go on. But he said, do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master. They said, let us call the young woman and ask her. And they called Rivkah and said to her, will you go with this man? She said, I will go. So they sent away Rivkah and their sister and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rivkah and said, our sister, may you become thousands of 10,000s, and may your offspring possess the gate of those who hate him. Then Rivkah and her young women arose and rode on the camels and followed the man. Thus the servant took Rivkah and went his way. Now Isaac had returned from Bir Lachai Roi. Remember, we've talked about that before. Do you remember what that is?
It's a well. I can't remember what the significance.
It was Hagar and Ishmael.
Oh, yeah.
That's where Hagar said, this is the God who has seen me.
Yep.
So it's the well of life, of the living one who sees me.
Yep.
Okay? Be'er as well.
Yep.
Lachai, remember we talk about Machaim?
Mm-hmm.
If the Hebrew toast, Lachaim, remember? That word chaya, the chaim, life, chaim. Lachai, the living one, who sees me, Ro'i, who sees me. All right? He lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, they were, they returned. Isaac had returned from this well. So there must be some kind of significance about this well. Okay, it was significant to Isaac. It was significant it must be, a special place. All right. I mean, it's a oasis.
Yeah.
So they put a well there, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And was dwelling in the Negev. And Isaac went out to meet in the field towards evening, to meditate in the field towards evening. And he lifted up his eyes. Okay, what's he doing meditating?
Well, he's praying.
Why is he not watching TV? I mean, isn't there a new Netflix show that came out?
Yeah.
So in the ancient world, we don't think about stuff like this. We only think about stuff that we have now. Even back when I was a child, which was a long, long, long time ago, right?
Forever ago.
We had TV that we could watch. I had video games and TV.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to do at night. All right. We had like 3 channels to watch, but we still watched what was on, right?
Yeah.
But now, I mean, we don't understand that back before the invention of these modern entertainment options.
It's hard to think about it for sure.
People had to spend their time doing something.
Staring at the barn.
So, yeah, I mean, so he's meditating. He's praying. All right? He's praying. Instead of watching TV, he's praying. Maybe we should do that sometimes. All the time.
All the time.
Okay, anyway, he's meditating. And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there were camels coming. Verse 64, and Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel and said to the servant, who is that man walking in the field to meet us? The servant said, it's my master. So she took her veil and covered herself, and the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother, and took Rivkah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Okay, remember, we didn't read this, we didn't go over this, but Sarah, in the meantime, had died. Okay, so we didn't go over that story. So this tent was his mother's tent, and so he gives it to Rivkah. All right, so she stays there, and then she becomes his wife. And he loves her.
Yeah.
The Lord had blessed this marriage. What a great story.
That she has a separate tent, though, from Isaac.
I mean, you got to have my space.
That's true.
It's like Lucy and Ricky. They ain't going to sleep in the same bag. I have my space, bro.
I got you.
Anyway, I don't know what the deal is with
that. Was just interesting.
That was a normal cultural thing that they did.
Sure.
We again, our culture is not the same.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We don't have separate. I mean, I guess some people have separate rooms and stuff, but
maybe
we don't have separate houses.
Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore, they slept in separate beds, right?
Yeah, them and Ricky and Lucy did, right. And that. I mean, it was scandalous when married people that were seen in the same bed together.
That's right.
Right? It was scandalous.
Yep.
But anyway, that's not a cultural thing, so we don't really understand it, but that's how they did it back then. All right? They needed their space. You had a man's tent, and you had a woman's tent.
Yep.
So, all right. We'll come back to, so we're gonna skip chapter 25. We're gonna introduce this next really important concept in chapter 26. And then we're going to have at least one more episode about this, maybe two more. This is one of the most important concepts in the Bible that we cannot move on from. All right. So we got to learn exactly what this is. Okay. So chapter 26, let's read that. Just these few verses here, these 5 verses.
All right.
Now there was famine in the land. This is Isaac after he's already been married for a while. Besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. So this is a second famine, a similar thing. And Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt, dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you, and I will bless you. For to you and to your offspring I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father. I will multiply your offspring as the stars of the heaven, and will give your offspring all these lands, and in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Okay? It's not a statue. Okay? That would be idolatry, right?
Yes.
If you obeyed a statue.
They're going to get in trouble for that later.
Okay. So what's happening here? Well, there's another famine. I mean, this is the ancient Near East. This is the ancient Near East, A&E. It happens. Famines happen, all right? We didn't have the Weather Channel to look and prepare for it. We just had to go with what happens, right? So there's this famine, and so he is trying to think if he's going to go down to Egypt, and the Lord says, don't. He doesn't want him to go to Abraham didn't want Isaac to go to Mesopotamia. The Lord doesn't want him to go down to Egypt. Again, he doesn't want him to get caught up in all these things, okay? There could be some political situation in Egypt going on that he didn't want him to get caught up in. It could be the idolatry and the paganism. We don't know. But for some reason, there was a specific reason he didn't want him to go to Mesopotamia and didn't want him to go down to Egypt, okay? So the Lord, again, he appears, okay, what does it say to him? The Lord
appeared to him.
Okay. Again, what's the significance of that? It's not just some mystical voice from beyond.
No.
Right? That we don't know what's happening. It's a visual manifestation of Yahweh.
Yeah.
This is Yahweh wanting to commune with his people. It's a way in which he can reveal himself to them without them dying. All right? Again, over and over and over again, we see it. The Lord appeared to him, to Isaac, and he said, So he appears to him. There's this physical manifestation of Yahweh, and he's talking to him. They're having a conversation like normal people do, right? And he tells them, don't go to Egypt. Stay in this land. I will be with you, and I will bless you. For to you and to your offspring I will give these lands. I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham, your father. I will multiply the offspring of the stars of the heaven, and to give your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Okay? What does that sound like?
Well, it's the same thing he told Abraham.
It's the same exact thing you told me. It's the Abrahamic covenant. It's that covenantal relationship. Okay, those three things.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bless you. I will. All the earth, because of that blessing for you, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Right.
Yep.
And I will give you offspring as many as the stars of the heaven, and I will give them these lands. Okay,
Yeah.
Those are the three elements of the Abrahamic covenant. Right, and it's the same thing he's promising to Isaac. Because, listen to this. This is Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Okay. So he had the law. He had the 10 commandments and the law at this point, right?
No.
Well, how is he obeying my commandments, my statutes, and my laws? If there's no codified law, how in the world is he obeying this non-codified law?
It's written on his heart. I mean, and he had personal communion with the Lord.
But it's about the law. It's the codified law, right?
Yeah.
So how is he doing it? No, the codified law was not given for 430 years.
Right.
Right? At Moses at Sinai.
Exactly.
Right? How? In the midst of reaffirming the blessings to Isaac, God gives us this little important description of Abraham. We learn that not only did Abraham obey what God explicitly told him to do, like go, take your son, sacrifice your son, all these things that he commanded Abraham to do, he obeyed, right?
Yep.
But that he also obeyed God's commandments, these statutes and laws, okay? This is especially significant because it shows that the laws of God existed long before they were given to Israel from Moses, okay? These laws are not just some codified laws that happen at this one specific point in time, okay? They were universal laws that existed before. All right, we're gonna talk about how we know that's true. What is typically called the Mosaic Law was given to Israel at Sinai. All right, Har Sinai. The giving of the law is recorded in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Some feel that this law was devised by Moses or only came into being at the time of Moses. Okay, some people will argue that. The argument is that if the law was brought into existence before all of human history, before the time of Moses, then it's not a universal law and was abolished through Jesus Christ. Come on, man. The verse we are considering today shows that this argument is false. The commandments, the statutes, and the laws of God existed long before Moses. God simply used Moses to codify these laws. So, and then used it as a covenantal relationship with this one specific people. Exodus 19:8. God is the ultimate lawgiver. We see that throughout Isaiah 33:22 and James 4:12. Many examples exist of people having knowledge of God prior to its codification on Mount Sinai. Two major examples are Noah understood the laws about clean and unclean meats. How did he understand what was clean and unclean if it wasn't in the law yet? Somehow he knew because it was some kind of
revelation.
Some
special revelation.
This is later recorded in Leviticus 11 and codified. Okay. Joseph understood the commandment against adultery. You're not supposed to have sexual relations with someone else's wife. Right? When Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him in Genesis 39, 7-9, he knew that was wrong. How did he know it? It wasn't codified at the time.
Right.
God gave 10 commandments to the people of Israel in Sinai and a whole bunch of other laws too after Moses led them out of Egypt. Okay? This is recorded in Exodus 21-17. But was this the first time that these laws have been given to human beings, or were these commandments known to people a long time before Moses? We know it didn't. Genesis 26, Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Okay? In order for Abraham to obey those commandments, he had to know what they were. Right? That means that Abraham was taught the laws directly either from God or others, or it was just a generally known thing about that these laws are true. Another reason we know these laws existed before Moses and Mount Sinai is that the Bible refers to sin many times before Moses. Genesis 4:7, Genesis 13:13, Genesis 18:20, 39:9, 42:22, 15:50, 17, etc. I mean, over and over again, it refers to sin. So there has to be some kind of transgression. Sin is transgression. That's what that means, all right? Sin, in 1 John 3:4, sin is the transgression of the law, okay? So let's talk about the laws that we see before Moses, okay? The first and second commandments are, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, okay? God worked with the patriarch Jacob hundreds of years before Moses. After God spoke to Jacob, notice what he did with the idols that were among his household. Then God said to Jacob, this is in Genesis 35, 1-4.
God said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there, and make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods that are among you, purify yourselves, and change your garments. Then let us arise and go to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods which were in their hands, and the earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree, which was by Shechem.
Okay. Jacob understood that these idols were sinful, and only the true God, Yahweh, was to be worshipped. He understood these commands that later were called the first and second commandments. Okay. The third commandment says, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Most scholars believe the patriarch Job, who lived before Moses, perhaps during the patriarchal period, maybe at the time of Abraham and Isaac, Job was concerned that his children might have been taking God's name in vain, and he knew that was wrong. Let's read Job 1:5.
So it was when the days of feasting had run their course, and Job would send and sanctify them, meaning his children, he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Jacob said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus Jacob did regularly.
So Job,
not Jacob. Sorry.
That's okay. So Job knew that you're not supposed to use the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
Before it was codified, right? Fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Okay? But embedded in this command is the truth that the Sabbath existed long before the commandment was given to Moses. You can only remember something that already existed.
Yeah.
Okay? To remember the Sabbath is to recall something that was established earlier. The Sabbath actually goes all the way back to Genesis, remember? Genesis 2:3, what does it say?
God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work, which God had created and made.
Interestingly, the Israelites were reminded to remember the Sabbath even before they came to Mount Sinai and received the Ten Commandments. This was when God gave them manna to eat. All right, this was before the Ten Commandments were codified. All right, so even to those people. Then he said, Moses said to them, this is what the Lord has said. Tomorrow is Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Then Moses said, eat that today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it, manna, in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, the Sabbath, there will be none. Okay?
Yep.
Now it happened that some of the people went out the Sabbath day to gather, but they found none. And the Lord said to Moses, how long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? And that's Exodus 16, 23
and that's before Sinai.
That's before Sinai.
Yep.
So even before they arrived, he expected them to remember the Sabbath day.
Yeah.
So and that means it existed a long time before that. We just read it. It was
regular practice.
It was a regular practice, or supposed to be a regular practice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The fifth commandment instructs us to honor your father and mother. Exodus 20:12. Both Jacob and Esau had dishonored their parents, but Jacob finally did obey. Esau saw, okay, let's read Genesis 28:6-7.
Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take himself a wife from there. And as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, you shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and had gone to Padan Aram.
Okay, so we see honoring your father and mother even before it was a command, fifth commandment, right? Sixth commandment, you shall not murder. Okay, we see this all the way back in the early chapters of Genesis. God told Cain he was to rule over his anger and to avoid sin. Let's read Genesis 4:6-8.
So the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him.
And then, so Cain's anger led to the sin of murder. God cursed Cain for his fratricide, but he also forbade others from murdering him, right? One of the reasons God flooded the earth was because it was, in Genesis 6:11, filled with violence, okay? After the flood, people knew that God was against murder, and they demanded a penalty from it. Okay, let's read Genesis 9:5-6.
From the hand of every man's brother I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God he made man. Well, it's also interesting, going back up to 6-8, and he said, if you do not do well, sin lies at the door.
Sin. So there's a standard.
There is a standard.
Okay, there is something that you can transgress. There is a standard that you can sin against.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's clear. It's crystal clear. All right, let's keep going. We're more than halfway through now. The seventh commandment tells us, "You shall not commit adultery." Okay, Exodus 20:14. This command was known and understood by the patriarch Joseph hundreds of years before Moses' birth. So let's read Genesis 39:7-9.
And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. Then how then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?"
Sin against God. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's before the codified law. He knows it's wrong to have sex with another man's wife.
Yeah.
It's wrong. So he doesn't. And he gets thrown in jail for it.
Yeah, he does.
He called the very idea of this adultery wickedness and a sin against God. He clearly understood God's command forbidding adultery. Earlier in Genesis, God warned Abimelech, the king of Gerar, which is in this chapter that we're talking, king of Gerar, not to commit adultery with Sarah. Remember that happened with Abraham first before it happened with Isaac.
Yeah.
God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "Indeed, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is another man's wife." Genesis 23. Let's keep going. The eighth commandment instructs us, "You shall not steal." Okay. This was on Jacob's mind when he discussed his wages with Laban in Genesis 30:33. Let's read that.
"So my righteousness will answer for me in time to come, when the subject of my wages comes before you. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and brown among the lambs, it will be considered stolen if it is with me."
Okay, so there's this concept of stealing, and it's wrong, right? And Joseph, with his brothers, in Genesis 44:9, understood that too. So let's talk about that.
"Whomever of your servants it is found, let him die, and we also will be my Lord's slaves." So
there's a transgression that occurs if stealing occurs, if you take someone else's property, right?
Yep.
So they understood this before it was codified as law. It's a law, right? Ninth commandment, we're almost done. The ninth commandment tells us, "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." In other words, lie, especially against someone else.
Yeah.
Okay. So bearing false witness, it's not necessarily lying, but it means lying to hurt someone else. Deceiving to hurt someone else. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, so have we ever seen that?
Yeah.
Genesis 3:4 in the very beginning. Who is the first one to deceive and bear false witness against God? Not only does he bear false witness, he bears false witness against Yahweh.
The Nahash.
The
serpent, the evil one.
Tells them, "You will not surely die." He misleads them with God's words. He twists his words. Right. That's the most obvious. And then with Cain in Genesis 4:9, after Cain murdered his brother, he asked where Abel was.
I don't know.
Am I my brother's keeper? I don't know. Yes, of course he knew where he was. That's a lie. Again, they're lying to God. He knows. My gosh. Job also knew that deceit was a sin against God. Let's read Job 31:5-6.
"If I have walked with falsehood, or if my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed on honest scales, that God may know my integrity." Okay,
so again, lying to deceive someone else or hurt someone else. That's what this is talking about here. Okay, Jacob lied and deceived others in his younger days, which brought many negative consequences on himself. This deceiver experienced many being cheated by his father-in-law Laban, and later he was deceived by his own sons. Jacob's sons sold Joseph into slavery and tricked their father into believing he had been killed by a wild animal. That's bearing false witness.
Yeah.
Okay. Lying is this bearing false witness. Okay. Deception to hurt other people or to deceive someone else is a sin. And it's often committed to cover up other sins, right? 10th commandment, you shall not covet. It's desiring, lusting after something which isn't ours, okay? This goes back to the very beginning.
Yes, it does.
Okay? Genesis 3:6, okay? In the garden, when Eve saw, she coveted the fruit of the tree and saw that it was good. Her coveting provoked by the Nachash resulted in her eating this fruit, the first sin. Adam ate. So what was the first sin? Was it disobeying God? What was the first sin?
Well, it was coveting.
Coveting.
What wasn't hers, or what was forbidden?
Yes,
essentially.
that's what her first sin was.
Yeah.
Okay, she committed several sins during the sequence, but the first was coveting.
Yeah.
Okay, this lust for this desirable fruit. She and Adam ate all of it, and then both of them were, in verse 10, anyway.
Yeah, they try to justify.
They try to justify their actions, right? And then blame it on someone else. Oh, well, the serpent. Oh, the woman you gave me did this.
Right.
Oh, no, the serpent deceived me. The result of their disobedience to God was that they were evicted from
the garden,
from God's paradise and the presence of God. The consequence of sin is death and separation. Okay? So, was there a law before codified law?
Of course.
Yes. But where did it come from? How did the people know the law? All right, let's read Jeremiah 31:33.
This is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people.
Okay. Hebrews 8:10.
This is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people.
So this is the writer of Hebrews quoting Jeremiah 31:33, talking about the new covenant, okay? That this is a law that's written on the hearts of people, okay? There was a universal law that existed even way long before, from the very beginning. We just saw in Genesis that it existed. This standard existed, all right? Let's read what Paul says about this universal standard in Romans 1.
I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also the Greek. For in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the righteous shall live by faith.
Okay, pause there for a second. There's this important term, righteousness. Okay, so following God's standard is righteousness. Okay, that's one of the key words. So remember that, righteousness, righteousness, righteousness. The righteous shall live by faith. So these laws, these standards can only be observed by faith. You can only achieve righteousness through faith. As we saw even in the Old Testament, we saw it. We've talked about it so many times. All right, keep going.
Verse 18, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. Therefore God gave them up in the lusts of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie, worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature.
And then let's go down to verse 28.
Since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness, gossipers, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they knew God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them.
So what is Paul saying in this chapter? There is this standard, and it's not codified. It's not. No. It is codified in law. It was codified in law with Moses, but this standard was existing where before even the codification of the law.
In the hearts and minds of people.
Yeah, it's in nature.
Yeah, it's in nature.
So nature,
and we should be able to see it.
All things show this law, this truth, this righteousness of God. Okay?
Right.
These invisible attributes, right? So everything that existed that God created shows his standard, his righteousness.
Yeah.
Okay? There were these laws that existed, unwritten laws that everybody knows. Okay, it says
in verse 32, though they know God's righteous decree,
that those who practice such things, these unrighteous things is what he's talking about, deserve to die. People who transgress the law, these laws, they not only do these unrighteous deeds, but they give approval to those who practice them. Does that sound like our culture today?
Very much. Very much.
So Paul writes in Galatians 5:22 and 23, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, right? Mm-hmm. Jesus said the two laws are love God, love other people.
Yep.
Those are the two laws.
Yeah.
Okay? So all these laws are written on our hearts, are written in nature to show us that we need to love God, love other people. And when we love God and love other people, the fruits of those actions are that loving God and love other people is called righteousness.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when we love God and love other people, the fruits of that are of the Spirit and faith, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. What are those things called? That's called justice.
Yeah.
So there's these twin ideals of righteousness and justice that existed before the law was codified. God gave them to us, and it's seen throughout from Genesis to Revelation. Okay? And we're going to see it, and we're going to go into a deep study on it next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Covenants and Kingdoms.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.